Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. I recently found a study that talked about the differences in men and women who read. So, over the course of a year, 11% of women will read 31 books or more, whereas only 5% of men reach that goal. And I was thinking that's quite a big difference. That's more than double the amount of people, participants that are, you know, reaching their literature goals. And I started thinking about why is that so? Why are not as many men reading? And if you look at the most successful people in the world, they love to read. I'm not gonna sit here and talk like Ty Lopez, but it is all about gaining that information, gaining that, that topic that you could roll out the top of your tongue, that extra vocabulary, that extra surface matter that you can expose to the world and become an expert on different subjects. And I was actually very inspired to find out that Jay-Z, one of my favorite rappers, he loves the Odyssey. He absolutely named it one of his top 5 books, along with, I think, one called The Purple Cow. And it got me thinking about how more men need to start getting into reading. So I didn't care about Shakespeare, Macbeth, Beowulf, none of that stuff when I was in high school. I thought that was the most boring thing in the world. But after high school, I had that gap of like that void of where I was being, forced to learn something. And I honestly realized I needed that growing up. I was mad when I couldn't think of certain words that I couldn't type out. I was frustrated when I couldn't think of like paraphrases or similes and metaphors when I was talking to people. And even when I would write down certain stuff, I would get frustrated that I didn't, have this information off the top of my head. And Google helped. But Google wasn't the sole and, last answer that there was. So I started reading books. I started getting interested in educating myself, right? I was like, I'm gonna teach myself. I'm not gonna go through a course. I'm not gonna pay for no seminars. First of all, I don't want to pay for that. Second of all, what if I waste my money? So I decided I'm gonna start picking up books. I would look up what's the best book to read. People would comment certain stuff like Shakespeare. They would comment Catcher in the Rye. I would have some friends and family give me random books here and there. And I tried a little bit of everything. I read Catcher in the Rye. I read a book called Monster about a kid on trial. I read some young adult books. What was it? Katniss Everdeen, Catching Fire, I think it's called. And none of them really did it for me. They were all just there. I read it and I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel like that feeling that book lovers talk about, where you just want to stay up all night with the candlelight and read in a fortress in the woods and all that. And I was like, I haven't felt that. So I kept trying and trying, and then I played a game where it was all about Greek gods. I was like, these are interesting. I looked up where the origins are from, what books to read, and then I started reading the Odyssey. But that book, there was too many characters in it that I didn't know their background, and the way they talked about them was like, you should know their background. So I looked it up, and the Iliad should be read first, according to some people. So I read the Iliad, and that was the book that sparked my interest. That was the book that started my addiction for books. I started staying up at night reading till 3 a.m. with the little app on my phone that simulated a fireplace so I could have a book light because mine didn't come in the mail yet. And it felt weird to be nerding out hardcore. I never nerded out. I was always into sports. I was always into staying out late, going to parties, drinking, all that sort of youth mentality. But once I got into books and I started realizing that, like, wow, knowledge really is power. Being able to come up with conversations and talk to people about certain stuff and being an expert on one subject matter, if not more than one subject matter, is a beautiful thing. I noticed the difference between the people that read and don't read. They don't, speak as fluently. They don't type as properly. They don't, just little things like that you start to pick up, and you start to realize the social skills and reading, they work very well together. And I was always a social person before I started reading, but once I started reading, it really helped me be able to talk about those stuff. And I think that's the best way to get started reading. Try a little bit of everything. Try young adult, try mystery, try thriller, try classics, try, antiquity type stuff like Shakespeare, Norse mythology, whatever it is that you're into, just try it. And if at first you don't succeed, try and try again, because there's going to be a gap. There's going to be those books that they're just not for you. And that's okay. That's why there's so many different ones, because there's some for everybody, not one for all. And I think that, educating yourself and being proper, and if you find the people that you look up to the most, say they're musicians, say that they're, politicians, if they're actors, guaranteed all of them have a favorite book, if not multiple favorite books. And I think that this ongoing crisis of men not reading as many books is a very big thing, because don't you want to lead the example of the future generations? Don't you want to raise kids that are going to be as educated as yourself? You're going to lead by example. You're going to show them that this is what you should be doing. And how are you going to tell your kid, like, hey, you should go to college, even though I never finished more than 10 pages of a single book? Like, go get an education. It's like, well, where's that proof that that works? Where's the proof that the education is going to pay off? And if you sit down and you can talk about that, if you can show them the benefits of it, show them the differences between yourself when you were younger and yourself when you're older with all that newfound knowledge, then they're going to see, okay, education does play a part of it. Even if it wasn't a formal education, reading a bunch of books or just learning something, being an expert on something will get you somewhere in life. Whereas not being educated, well, you could get a job, you could work in certain places, but the doors aren't as open. And I never understood that until I got older, until it came time to work. So even if you don't go the college route, you could get licensed something. You could become a successful realtor. You could open a gym. You could open a business. You could do all this stuff, but you're gonna have to learn something regardless. You're gonna have to learn one way or another. You're gonna have to learn about return on investments. You're gonna have to learn on people skills, organizational skills, all that stuff that maybe isn't so much taught in school, but you could learn on your own. So the point of this entire video is, as a generation, you got to make sure that you get educated, because this is the generation that's going to raise the newer generations. This isn't going to be something that you're doing just for yourself. This is going to be something that you're doing for your kids, for your grandkids, for your siblings and the people around you. They're going to start seeing this change. They're going to start noticing that you're becoming an expert on a certain topic, on a certain field. And even if you're not sitting down reading Hamlet every night, you could probably pick up a book or pick up some knowledge on body language and some knowledge on communication skills, on posture, on investments, on stocks, on the rise and falls of dividends and all this good stuff. And I think that's pretty much what this video boils down to. Men specifically need to get focused and educated on reading more books and just consuming more information, because that's what's going to make the difference between someone who is forced to stay working at a factory versus someone who can actually move around and go where they please because they have all this knowledge. You don't need to have that knowledge of hands-on work, but if you know the theory of it, then you can start practicing it. You can start trying to make that theory work in real life. And so that's why I'm gonna leave with this video. I hope more people start looking at themselves differently. They start looking at themselves through the eyes of someone who is themselves in the future, and being like, well, where do I actually want to be? Which future version of myself do I want to become? And you can make two of them. You can make the one that follows a path similar to the one that I just spoke, or one that just completely ignores it and does the same thing over the course of time, and see where each one leads you, and go to the extremes. Go to the extremes of saying you're going to get a Harvard degree in one of them, double major and masters in Yale, and then another one saying I'm not going to do anything and I'm going to stay where I am completely for my whole life and stay right here. And see where each one leads you, and find the difference and choose which one you want. Anyway, that's the video. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Bye.